Okay, today in Billy Opinion Land, we're going to be talking about the omnipotence paradox. And we're going to have two answers that you've probably never heard before. Okay, so all of my former teens from my youth group are probably going to hate this video. But I'm going to do it anyway, because it's my channel and I do what I want. And I say that because every summer we had these going deeper conversations about theology. And one question we would answer every year is, can God make a rock so heavy that he himself cannot lift it? I know. You're probably thinking, low-hanging fruit, dude! But wait, like I said, I have answers that you probably haven't heard before. In fact, I think there are three possible answers to this question. So let's back it up a little bit. The omnipotence paradox is a paradox that arises out of the understanding of our term omnipotent. In Christian theology, we believe that God is omnipotent. He's absolutely powerful. Paradox comes into play when people think omnipotent means you can do anything, even the impossible. So the question is, can God make a rock so heavy that he himself cannot lift it? And I think the paradox is a fun mental exercise for everybody, because it really forces you to define your terms. What do you mean by God? What do you mean by omnipotent? What do you mean by lift? What do you, you have to define all of your terms here. I'm going to jump right into the answers that I think are the feasible solutions to this paradox. The first answer comes from Frank Sheed. He's a famous theologian that wrote a lot of stuff back in the 50s. In his book, Theology for Beginners, he actually addresses this paradox right off the bat. He poses it this way. Can God make a weight so heavy that he cannot lift it? Asks the unbeliever. He feels he has us cornered. If we say yes, then God cannot lift it. If we say no, then God cannot make it. Our reply is that God indeed can do all things. But self-contradiction is not a thing. God cannot make a four-sided triangle because the terms contradict each other and cancel each other out. A four-sided triangle is meaningless. It is not a thing at all. It is nothing. A weight that an almighty being cannot lift is as much a contradiction in terms as a four-sided triangle. It, too, is nothing. And to give an old text new emphasis, nothing is impossible with God. And I think that's a pretty straightforward and satisfactory answer. It points out the logical contradiction of the question. Can a thing both be and not be at the same time? Or is God so powerful that he cannot do something? It makes no sense, but it's fun to think about. Now, the second answer to the question that I find satisfactory actually comes from a dear friend of mine. His name is Quinn. Back in our old hometown, we used to have regular gatherings of other Catholic men with booze and cigars and food, and we would just talk theology for hours. And it was great. And he proposed this answer to the question that I had honestly never thought of before. He actually answers the question in the affirmative. Yes, God can create a rock so heavy that he cannot lift it. If we answer by virtue of Jesus Christ and the Hypostatic Union. Now this is where the discussion can break down because you need to have a solid grasp of Christian theology. That is to say, in the mystery of the Incarnation, we have the second person of the Trinity, Jesus Christ. He has two natures, human and divine. We call that union the Hypostatic Union. It was defined very early in our church's history. Now, a necessary component of the doctrine of the hypostatic union is something called the communication of idioms. It tells us that anything that can be predicated of one of Christ's natures can be predicated to both of them, because it is predicated of the entire person of Jesus. Therefore, we can say that all limitations of Christ's humanity were ascribed to the second person of the Trinity through the Incarnation. Christ, through his humanity, was completely subject to the laws of his own creation. Now, Christ, by his divinity, was at the same time completely unfettered by those laws. The question, can God make a rock so heavy that he himself cannot lift it, only seems like a paradox because the mystery of the Incarnation seems like a paradox. But if we accept the truth of the incarnation and of the hypostatic union and of the communication of idioms, the question is rather simple to answer. Yes, God could create a rock that was too heavy for him to lift, and in reality it probably wasn't that heavy at all. Because we have to assume that Christ living among us in his human nature saw boulders on the mountains and he did not lift them because he could not lift them in his humanity. The fun part about it is that when we talk about the communication of idioms in the hypostatic union, it doesn't limit his divinity or his omnipotence at all. Now, the third and final answer comes from a former student of mine. His name is Ryan, and he's probably one of the smartest kids we've ever had in our youth group. He actually provided an explanation of this paradox by way of the natural universe and physics. Now, disclaimer, I am not a physicist. I have no idea what theoretical physics teaches. I am a theologian, but this answer was like a total mind blow for me. Essentially, Ryan addresses another part of the question that I just had never thought of. He asks, what does it mean to lift something? Ryan points out the physical nature of gravity and whether or not an infinite being of infinite power can lift in the terms that we mean. If we're defining our terms, we're starting with the point that God is infinite and his power is infinite. Now, if we're talking about lifting, we mean to lift is to raise something up relative to its mass and the force of gravity holding it down. So in this scenario, God, who is an infinite power, an infinite being, would have to create something with a greater infinitude of mass. But not only that, God would have to create a plane of existence with an even greater infinitude of gravity. So it would have to be a plane of existence where the gravitational force is of a greater infinitude than the infinitude of the mass of the object that God has created. Because to lift something, he would actually have to have that plane of existence where the object is resting so he could actually raise it up with the proper amount of force, in which he would have to exert an even greater amount of infinite force against the object and the plane of existence to actually raise it up. But those objects, planes, and forces are impossible. And therefore, the question itself is impossible. And in essence, it's nonsense. So Ryan answers the question in the logical contradiction, but also the physical contradiction of the question. Like, it's an impossible concept. And again, I'm not a theoretical physicist, so I don't do math. But if somebody who is a theoretical physicist wants to actually like provide an equation or illustrate the impossibility of this, I'd love to see it. Please send them my way. Do a response video. I don't care. I think it's crazy. So I think that questions that deal with paradoxes are a lot of fun. And in this one, if it's raised by atheists as a legitimate objection to theism, is pretty nonsensical. And ultimately, if you're having a amicable conversation with an atheist or one of your other Christian friends, it's a lot of fun to just entertain these thoughts and to work them out on your own. What do you think? What's your answer to the question, can God create a rock so heavy that he cannot lift it? I'd love to see, like, what do you think of the answers that were provided here? Have you ever thought of them before? Is this really an issue that would prevent somebody from converting to Christianity? I don't know. Like, it's just crazy stuff. All right, kind of a softball to start us off with Billy Opinion Land, but I had to do it. It was fun for me. I hope it was fun for you. And remember, we're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. So if you like what you're seeing here, please like, comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel and share these videos with your family and friends and tell them to subscribe too. Remember, if we reach 1,000 subs by Christmas, we're going to be doing a t-shirt giveaway. And I think the t-shirts look pretty awesome, so come on, help us out. If you like what you're seeing here, please stick around for the OK Catholics vlog and check out our other channel, Catholic Word of the Day. Series 4 is right around the corner and we have a lot of collaborations lined up for this season. And in fact, all of our videos are collaborations with other awesome people, so you're going to want to check it out. That's it. Get out of my house!